Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today's edition of Ask a Leopard Owner takes us to the U.S. Virgin Islands on a Leopard 50 sailing catamaran. So let's take a quick look at what we're going to cover. First, we'll learn about Kevin and Elizabeth. We'll hear from them on why they chose the Leopard 50 and their thoughts almost a year in. We'll understand how they choose where to go and how they get there. We'll hear from them about how they work and live from anywhere, and I'll share some lessons they've learned along the way. So that's it for me. Kevin and Elizabeth, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. My name's Kevin, and this is my wife, Elizabeth.
Hello.
And we're currently looking at St. Thomas in the background of our boat today. And we appreciate the opportunity from Leopard to kind of share our story, it's kind of a humble beginnings, I guess. We're from Fort Smith, Arkansas. Elizabeth and I learned about sailing about 12 to 13 years ago. We had started a real estate business, a brokerage, and began investing in rental property, and in about 2002, and got worn out and just exhausted and wondered, what are we going to do in our retirement one day? And so we, Elizabeth actually found a sailing vacation in the British Virgin Islands that we took, and we fell in love with sailing at that point. So that's a little bit of it. You want to add to that?
Yeah, so after that first initial trip, Kevin looked at me. He was like, we can totally do this. And so from that point on, we just started taking ASA classes. Kevin was doing deliveries to help just gain some sea time. We helped some friends do an ocean crossing in 2019. And so we learned a lot from that as well. We took our 16-year-old daughter with us. We actually have got 3 kids. Our oldest is 24, Mackenzie. We've got a freshman in college, Jackson, and then Caroline is our youngest, who's a senior in high school. And she's actually doing her senior year aboard right now with us. She's back and forth, but she's here most of the time. So we're both in the real estate business. We have sold our company at home, although we still have got rental property that our oldest daughter is managing for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
So to answer a few of the basic questions we get all the time, we own a Leopard 50. Ours is hull number 55. And we bought it at the Miami Boat Show in 2018 and received delivery on it in just this past year in 2020. So it did take 2 years to get in line and to wait on the production. It doesn't really take them 2 years to build it, but we have been sailing pretty much full time since this summer. The girls and I moved the boat up and down the coast doing some shakedown cruises this spring, late spring and early summer. And we wintered for the hurricane season in Charleston this year, which was a great area. And so we are now what I would consider full time. And we sold our real estate brokerage, and we maintain rental property still, even though it's greatly reduced from where we were at our peak there. And so everybody always asks, what do you do for a living to enable you to do this? And that's it. It's real estate based. So
we're also picking up some charters though.
That's right.
So we're doing a few charters here and there, mostly just to keep busy, but it's also a nice way to pay for college.
That's right. So why a boat?
Oh, why a boat? Well, I guess the biggest reason for why a boat for us has been because Kevin cannot sit still. He's constantly got to be doing something. And so when we took that trip initially, that's why I chose a sailboat for us, because I knew it would keep him occupied the whole time while I could sit and relax and read and just do whatever. And we have always loved traveling. And so as we kind of got more used to it, and it just kind of came natural for him. He's a pilot as well. We just kind of decided this was a really good way for us to be able to spend our retirement years. RV life was not for us. It was just a little too slow, and just we didn't think it'd keep him busy enough. So that's kind of the short answer, I guess, for that.
And we do love the water. We're both PADI certified divers, and we love to snorkel as well. And we grew up on lakes and rivers, fishing and skiing and inner tubing as kids. And so we do love the water. And we even thought about naming, instead of Southern Charm, we thought about naming our boat Go Slow. But we liked Southern Charm better. So anyway, where are we now? We actually have spent the last couple nights on Buck Island, just south of St. Thomas, not the Buck Island just north of St. Croix. and I've circumnavigated St. John recently, and just came in this morning to Christmas Cove. So we are anchored in Christmas Cove right now, getting rocked by wake from all the weekend warrior boaters. But anyway, hopefully we won't have any huge wake roll us over. But anyway, beautiful area though. We love the USVI and are enjoying our time here. So anyway.
So it took us how long to get down here? It was 10 days.
Yeah, the passage from Charleston was 10 days.
10 days and a whole lot of planning ahead of time. We were, I guess, we were anxious to get down here. So we were probably pushing it a little bit. And I don't know.
It was, I think the trip was planned out well, though. We had all those months to plan the passage down. So we were well provisioned. We had a crew of 7 aboard to get down to the USVI. We had already gone up and down the coast somewhat. And so, we've done about 2,700 miles, I think, since we got the boat. And so anyway, I think the passages and the bareboat experiences and all of that helped prepare us, for this trip. So anyway, we had to take care of everything back home more than anything. And so having our daughter manage rental property and having a home still back in Fort Smith, being in Charleston allowed us to drive back and forth some and still feel like we're, connected somewhat. And with COVID and all the meetings and everything else going on, it made it easier actually to go to the boat and still communicate and stay in touch with work and all that. So anyway, it worked out for us. So we felt that was
quick question coming in just around training and experience. So no surprise that a lot of Leopard owners are actually first-time boat owners.
Right.
I definitely fit that characteristic as well. Learned how to sail in the Pacific Northwest before buying a boat. But tell the audience a little bit about what kind of training and certification that you guys got before you actually took delivery, and then specifically a follow-on question here about do you have a 6-pack license from the Coast Guard for the charter side of stuff?
Okay. So we grew up, like Kevin said, in Arkansas. In our part of the state, we have a river, Arkansas River wraps around the city. And then we also have tons of lakes. And so we grew up on ski boats. We had a pontoon boat when our kids were small. Kevin is a duck hunter. He had a duck boat. So we are familiar with boats, just not blue water boats per se.
Yeah, we're sailboats at the beginning.
Yes, exactly. And so we started off with some ASA certifications. We took a week and did a class, I guess 4 or 5 classes in Key West right after that very first trip. And from that point on, we really haven't done any other classes. We've just bareboated a lot. And then Kevin has also had the deliveries.
Well, and my captain's license.
Well, okay.
So after doing our original crude charter in the BVI, within months of finishing that trip, we did this ASA class in Key West where we got to live aboard a boat. And then the trainer would come on board in the morning and take us out and do a lesson for the day, then bring us back in the marina, and we got to stay on board the boat. And so we got kind of the experience of living aboard, as newbies to sailboating. And so that was a lot of fun and a great experience. And then from there, I joined some sites like Crew Finders and Offshore Passage Opportunity, went to boat shows and met a lot of the, World Cruising Club rallies and some of those places to get my name on lists to volunteer as crew. And before I knew it, I was doing passages, helping move boats and deliver boats all over the place, and gained a lot of sea time that way and got a lot of experience as well. And so from that, once I had enough sea time, I started working. I used the Mariner's Learning System to get my 6-pack license. And I'm actually in the process of upgrading right now to my 50-ton license. And I'm kind of waiting on that to come back from the Coast Guard right now. But I do have a 6-pack license at this point for our charter business. So I hope that answers your question, Chris.
Yep, that's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay, good. So the plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do the short term. You do our long term. How about that?
I don't know.
Our short term plan is to stay in the USVI, potentially go to the BVI some if it's open and not problematic, let's say. But we're going to be doing some charters this season, and a full crew, term charter and day charters. And for this season anyway, that's what we plan to do. We're still debating on whether for next hurricane season, if we'll come back to the States or if we'll go south and maybe hang out like Grenada or somewhere like that out of the hurricane zone, but we're still yet to decide on that. So anyway, future plan.
Future plan is to the cliche, go around the world. And so that's kind of always, well, since we kind of got into it last few years, it's kind of really has been the plan. However, we want to do it very slowly. We really don't have an interest in doing a rally that's going to take us all the way around the world in 2 years. We just feel like we'd miss a whole lot. We did the ARC Europe rally with some friends, helping move their boat to the Med, and it was a fantastic experience. However, we just felt like we were only in Bermuda a few days, and then we were only in the Azores for a week, 5 days maybe. And it was just a little bit too fast for us. So our plan is to go around the world slowly, but we probably won't really start that journey for another, we're guessing maybe 2 to 4 years, somewhere in there. We want to wait till our kids get a little bit older to where we feel like they're good to be left for long periods.
And just to tag on to that, the ARC rally and the ARC Europe and all the other World Cruising Club rallies have been great. More for any reason, it's well organized, but you meet so many great people from all over the world, and that was a great experience.
Really
I would do that again in a heartbeat. So why Leopard?
Why Leopard? Oh, well, it didn't start off that way. I wish that we could say that. That was not the original. We were on production boat, a little bit more common production boat back in the.
We were thinking of Hylas originally, remember?
Yeah. Anyway, so we just didn't know about Leopard, really. We'd never been on one. And Kevin and I started going to a whole lot of different boat shows, just as many as we could. And once we stepped on the Leopard and we saw that forward cockpit, it was just, ooh, we really liked that. That really kind of started ticking some boxes for us. And because we have 3 kids, we really wanted to be able to have 4 cabins, but we also wanted the owner's version as well. And we did not really find anything that had that we were interested in. And so we once the 50 came out, I remember waking Kevin up early one morning. I think Leopard had just teased it on their Facebook page or YouTube or something, and I saw it and I woke him up. I was like, I just found the boat and you've got to come look at it.
So the big things I would say that were important to us was we wanted an owner's version, and we wanted to do some chartering. So we really wanted 4 cabins. And so there was nothing on the market that was really truly an owner's version with 4 cabins as well, in a price point that we felt like we could afford. And so that was huge. And having the fly bridge was another plus. And then the forward cockpit was another plus. So when all those things came together, it really, we went from thinking we were going to get a Leopard or a Lagoon like 45 to the Leopard 50 was it bar none. So it just really kind of,
well, and all the windows, are just amazing to me. You can just about see 360 degrees on the boat. And I love that so much.
Yep.
One question that I'm sure you guys get, I get too with my 45 is the front cockpit, and any concerns on doing longer passages and it filling up with water. Kevin, you have some experience with this. What's your
Yes, that's a great question, a common question. And I think it's a talking point that a lot of the competing boats want to use against Leopard. But I can tell you from firsthand experience, yes, we've been in big seas where we've taken huge waves over the bow and we've not filled up that cockpit, but I can tell you it drains super quickly. And I've also heard the stories about filling that cockpit up, where they stuffed the scuppers, filled it up with water, and whatever regulating authority said, we're going to give you 5 minutes for this to drain. And it drained from being completely full and stuffed, like with the drains, plugged, it drained in less than a minute being full. And so from personal experience crossing, the Atlantic crossing to get here, from being in, 40 knot winds offshore on the East Coast, taking waves over the front, it is not an issue whatsoever. And that forward door is actually a hatch. It's not a door. It is a hatch with 3 dogs that close that and seal it tight with no worries. We've never had it leak and had no issues there. And when you open it up, when it's calm out, or like we are right now at Anchorage, there's a great breeze blowing through the boat right now to keep you cool. So we love the forward cockpit. And especially down here in the islands, when the winds are easterly and the sun's setting in the afternoon, it gets really hot in the back, and we don't have sunshades yet in our aft cockpit. So we just moved to the front cockpit, and you're in the shade, you've got the breeze coming on you. And so it's a great alternative sitting area that we really enjoy. So
awesome. And then just one other build here in terms of, choosing this boat, the classic question of, monohull versus multi-hull, what what were some of the things that drew you to a catamaran?
I would say our age. we love sailing. We both enjoy sailing monohulls, and in the monohull purists out there, I understand and I get it. I know what it's like to be on a lean and feel like you're really sailing like that. And believe it or not, even in a cat, you can feel it leaning, but you know, you've got to sail by the numbers more. But this catamaran was a much more comfortable option for us. And we kid around with our, you know, monohull friends and say we chose the catamaran 95% for its performance at anchor. And it's so comfortable. And it's like they say, it's a condomaran, you know, it's so comfortable. And being close to 50 years old, we are in it for comfort. We're not going to set any records racing or anything. We've loaded this boat down with every creature comfort we could ever dream of. And so we're not interested in the racing. We want to be comfortable. We want to enjoy our time
And we don't want
take
to
our time.
climb companionways.
That's right. Yeah, we don't really want to climb companionways as much as we can avoid, right?
Yes, yeah.
So anyway,
Awesome. Thanks.
you bet. So lifestyle, a couple things that I would tell you here is everybody who's on the call has probably heard that the sailing community is really small, and it is. We've met some great friends along the way. Even just the few weeks we've been here in the USVI, we've met some great friends. And I mean, literally had one new sailor friend call us yesterday to see if we wanted one of his fishing, you know, guidebooks. And I mean, you just meet so many great people, but the Leopard community is even smaller. So we've gotten to know people who have the same boat as we do, an older version of the Leopard. You know, the Atlantic Crossing last year was on a 98 model Leopard 45. So it doesn't really matter. The sailing community is small, the Leopard community is even smaller, and it's great. And so you get out of it what you put into it, though. It's kind of like if you get on an elevator and you're the first one to say something, the other people you're talking to, they're going to talk right back. You've got to start the conversation sometimes, and you'll be surprised the number of people that you can meet. So we've loved that. You're also sharing the commonality of having an adventurous lifestyle. You've got the common, you know, the common thread that you're adventurous and you like to take risks, and that you are interested in, well, at least you have that in common, that you know what each other goes through, whether it's a problem setting the anchor, or whether it's, you know, a sail, you know, chafing, or whatever, generator problem, whatever. And but you also know that you're after this for a slower paced lifestyle and enjoying your time together. And I've been on a lot of crossings where the most important thing I learned was it's not necessarily where you're going or what destination, it's who you're with, and that you're enjoying it with the ones that you love. And so that was an important lesson that I learned along the way. But the lifestyle is just hard to pass. And we even met some great people in Charleston in our time there. So anyway, planning. I'm going to let Elizabeth talk about weather apps.
Well, my contribution to this adventure has been trying to learn as much as I can about the weather, which is a totally new thing for me. We have got some really great apps that we have started using, and really the first one that we use that I love so much is not really an app, but it's tropicaltidbits.com, and it is just the most complete synopsis of what's going on in the weather, like all the way through hurricane season. This was the first place that I went every morning, several times a day, just checking on what storms were doing. It gave great forecast. It's very easy to understand, and I really appreciated that about it. The app there on the right is earth.nullschool.net, and this is just really more for, we were always trying to find a really an easy way to see the Gulf Stream, yeah, and the current and how it changed, and we could never really find anything that just visually allowed us to do that. And I ran across this particular website, and it is just fascinating. You can see currents, you can see waves, you can just see all kinds of just neat information about the world.
Well, the neat thing to me on that app was you can actually set the temperature of the water, and you can see where the Gulf water gets taken around Florida and up the East Coast. And so that hot, warm, you know, warmer water is getting moved north, and so you see it next to the colder water, and the Gulf Stream is obvious, and it's just incredible to look at.
Neat, yeah. Some of the other apps that we use a whole lot are when we're offshore, we use Predict Wind. Offshore, we connect through the sat phone, which
So
we'll
the
talk
through
about.
Iridium Go, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Windy, of course, I'm sure most sailors are using Windy. Windy has gone through, I think, a pretty recent upgrade, and it's very, very user friendly. It gives just tons of information. You can customize it to what you're really looking for and what type of sport you know that you're really needing it for. When we are cruising, just kind of coastally like this, we don't use those quite as much, and we kind of just use local things like maybe weather.com or this My Radar. We really enjoy the My Radar a lot. I believe that's a free app. And then the hurricane tracker is another one that we use specifically during hurricane season. It will shoot you notifications when a storm has been upgraded from an invest to a tropical depression to a storm to a Cat 1, 2, 3, and then back down again. It just gives a lot of really good information as far as that goes. The iTides is another app that really kind of works more with the iNavX. Yeah, and so around here we don't need this as much, but when we were cruising along the East Coast, tides and currents are just crazy. We had never really experienced anything quite like that. And so this particular app really helped us be able to time our comings and our goings to be safest and to be able to not get in trouble.
So it's basically iTides is a plugin for iNavX.
Yes.
And so going to the cruising apps, iNavX just happens to be the first navigation software that I learned how to use when we did bareboat charters. And that's what I had on my iPad. We could have a second plugin on Elizabeth's iPad as a backup. And it's really just what I learned on. Nothing bad to say about Navionics or Raymarine or the Garmin products. It's just kind of what we learned on. And so it's gotten better over the years, and you just kind of have to I don't know, I use about 3 different ones, and we'll talk about it later, but my motto in life is anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So I do carry iNavX, Navionics, and Raymarine charts on the boat just because I like to overlay them and see if there's any differences or nuances. So Marine Traffic is a great app to download. So any broadcasting AIS boats, you can see where they are, including us. If you look us up right now, you'll see that we're in Christmas Cove on USVI, and it does cost just a little bit, but it's pretty neat to be able to see your boat or other boats that you're following. And we even tracked our delivery of Southern Charm on the shipping vessel that brought it over from South America, from Cape Town, and so South Africa, sorry, from Cape Town. Anyway, Garmin Active Captain is neat because you can kind of see different input from users about different anchorages or marinas or whatever. It's kind of a way to get local knowledge on certain things. And then Docwa is a way that we actually reserve our marina slips and stuff with certain marinas where you pay and give them the credit card and do all that through there and reserve your marina space. So we've kind of gotten to use Docwa a little bit this last year. And then Anchor Alarm, there's several of these apps I'm still trying to play between which one I like the most. And Anchor Alarm is one that when we're on a mooring or an anchor, I'll set that on my phone. And so if you move too far outside of the circle, it'll set off an alarm that lets you know you've left that circle and wake you up at night or whatever. So I'd advise you to use it on an anchor or on a mooring in case that mooring was to break. And so if you follow many YouTube channels, you'll know was the family,
Oh yeah, Sailing Family.
The Sailing Family. Yeah, they had that happen in the Pacific, and it was just a terrible, terrible ordeal. So anyway, use an anchor alarm of some sort. I'm not necessarily endorsing this one, but get one that you know how it operates and use it.
And remember to turn it off when you hop in the dinghy and drive away.
Yeah, that happened to us actually this morning. Yeah, we were leaving. I was like, "What is that noise?" And I'm like, "Reboot your phone. It's your phone's." And it ended up being my phone, and it was the anchor alarm telling us we had pulled up anchor and left. And so yeah, it was giving us the warning. It's pretty funny.
One question on just the passage that you guys made from Charleston to USVI. Who was your crew for that trip? It
started with one of the couples, Clay and Susan Pruitt, who we originally started sailing with. They joined us on our very first bareboat charter ever, and in retrospect it was probably premature, but they jumped in with us anyway and trusted us, and so they've been sailing with us for quite a while. And then we had a couple, Kirk and Carol Ann were with us as well, wanting to learn offshore passaging and get some sea time at the helm and keeping watch. And then we invited our couple that we crossed the Atlantic with last year, the Penningtons, but they were unable to do it last minute. And so literally 3 days before we were leaving, we asked one of the new friends that we had met in Charleston if his wife would allow him to go. And Stephen joined us. And he is a former Navy, but had never sailed before. And he ended up being a great bonus crew that we had not expected, and kept 4-hour watches by himself. And he set up all the fish rigging and got everything set up, and then let everybody else reel them in. So Stephen was a great last minute add, and is actually, his family's going to come down and spend a week with us this spring. So
yeah,
anyway,
Awesome.
so yeah. So boat apps, these are apps we actually use on the boat. Victron Connect is what I use to connect to our battery system and our solar system. So the solar system, I can actually log in with the boat and see what my batteries are at. And I can log in and see my different solar arrays, which one is generating how much power back into the batteries. So it's an easy way to just be able to walk around the boat with your phone instead of having to go to the BMX device to look it up at the panel. And then Ray Remote is an app that allows me to log into the multifunction display with my iPad and actually see or use any of the same information as if I was sitting at the helm, and I can make changes, but it makes the changes at the multifunction display as well. So if I was messing around with it from my bunk while I had another crew at the helm, they'd be kind of freaking out going, what's going on? Somebody's messing with this. But the latency is a little slow, but it works just fine. It's just a little slow going through the Bluetooth connection. So finally is the Ghost Watch HD. And Ghost is basically the onboard alarm system. It's just like a house alarm. You can set it when you're away. You can set it when you're home. And we can also track the boat where it is through like a geofence type deal. And we can also monitor our high bilge alarm and battery. If batteries get below a certain amount, it'll alarm us whether we're on the boat or off. And it will send me a text or an email and let me know the status of the system, even if I'm back in Fort Smith. So it's a nice system. We've not used it a whole lot yet because we've not been in the area that we felt threatened or that we were, that there was danger around. So we're going to, as we travel more, I'm sure we'll be using it more often. So anyway. All right.
Oh, storm preparedness. Well, when we got to Charleston and really started the weather and preparing for the hurricane season, we didn't realize that it was going to be such an active year until we started really kind of digging into it. And so that point, we decided that we were just going to start asking around some of the other more salty sailors in the marina, and we got some good advice from them. We visited one of our neighbors in the marina, was actually the marina manager, and he was kind of giving us some information about as far as how much, I guess, what storm the marina was rated for. And so anything over a 2, we had planned we were going to be leaving, and where we would go, we weren't really sure. I guess it would just depend on the storm path and how much time we had. There were several rivers in Charleston that we could travel up, and that was one of the plans. So we had made those plans way ahead of time. We also checked with our insurance company because they do have a set of rules that we've got to abide by to be able to be covered for these storms. The very first was just being north of the Florida-Georgia line. So naturally, Charleston is that. So when Isaias came up the seaboard, we went through everything. We took down all of the isinglass. We brought in all of our cushions and pillows. I mean, anything that was outside. We took care of the sails, wrapped the sails. It was not supposed to be over a 1, I believe, when it got to us. And it actually ended up had downgraded to a tropical storm once it hit where we were. So we didn't feel the need to really take down sail all the way. I guess.
We rode that one out on the boat. The storm surge was actually more scary than any wind we got. Just rocking. We were in a floating dock where the dock is actually chained to the sea floor, and so that was pretty wild watching the dock rock and roll, and us along with it. But we had tied it. We put about 10
Oh,
fenders out and about 11 lines spidered out, and so we felt pretty secure as long as one of the other docks didn't collapse like it did that same storm north of us in I forget the area, but it was North Carolina, about an hour north of us. It did collapse, and just terrible scene there. So anyway, anything else on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Lessons learned. One of the things we kind of had to figure out was how to stay connected. And at sea, we used the Iridium Go. It was about $1,000 initial purchase, and the subscription is about $120 a month. And then you can also, do the offshore app, and there's two pieces to that. There's the satellite side where you can text and email and talk, and then there's the subscription side where you actually get the data and all that kind of stuff. So the Iridium Go with the Predict Wind and offshore is kind of our go-to choice right now when we're offshore. The ability to text when you're offshore is huge for a morale booster to allow your crew to communicate back home, and it's basically unlimited, and it's really nice to be able to communicate with home when you're out. So here locally in the USVI, we've while we're cruising, we've signed up with a local company called ALB Link, I think, or something like that, that sells for VIA, and it's about $300 a month, and it gives us unlimited Wi-Fi in the USVI. It does not. They have the ability to expand it to the BVI and further down island, but it is an additional cost. But for right now, staying around here, it's been pretty good. I mean, we're not using the exact router they recommended, but the router we got through Wave Wi-Fi seems to be working well. And that Wave Wi-Fi allows us to connect to a local shore Wi-Fi or a cellular Wi-Fi or whatever, and we can bounce back and forth as needed, whichever connection's the best.
And we're still using our AT&T as
that's
well.
right. AT&T still works good.
We tried Google Fi for a while. Google Fi, we've got a lot of friends who use it and have been very happy with it. We tried it out when we were on the East Coast, and it just did not work for
what we needed. It didn't. And with 4 or 5 kids, with all 4 or 5 of us, including kids, the data plan that's unlimited, they throttle you at about 20 gig, where AT&T doesn't throttle on unlimited till over 100 gigs. So that was kind of one of the big deciding factors. So anyway,
quick question here, just when it comes to being connected and entertainment. Can you share a little bit about what you guys use for playing music and video content, streaming content on the boat?
So for we use like Spotify for our music. We've just downloaded a ton of playlists. So we use that almost exclusively. I believe we can actually run our Spotify through the Raymarine too.
Yeah, the Raymarine interface has an ability to play Spotify right from, as well as Netflix.
As long as
you're in Wi-Fi connectivity. And another thing we do on the boat that's kind of cool, that's it's not part of the gear here, but we actually have a little projector we have on our gear list we can share with you, but it's called a Nebula, and we can actually project movies on our screen or our sunshades.
We watch the Razorbacks on there.
And we can play the audio from that through the sound of the audio system on the boat.
So we have, over the years, we have just purchased a ton of movies like through iTunes, and they're all saved onto an external hard drive. And so we just plug them in and have a movie night right here in the cockpit.
So, does that answer your question, Chris, or was there something I was missing?
It sure does, and I have that same projector, and it's amazing. I love it.
Awesome. Well, and we use Netflix and Amazon Prime as well.
Yeah,
awesome.
So
gear. Well, we've got a lot of, like Kevin said before, a lot of creature comforts, and these are a few of the things that are probably the highlights. The very first one there is our Dometic fridge freezer. And so anytime that we have bareboated in the past, we've always had a huge cooler for drinks or fish or just extra food, whatever. And we felt like we were going to need that, but we did not want to have to be constantly filling that thing up with ice. And so we had read several other cruisers had a Dometic, and it is AC or DC, right?
You can plug it into 110 AC or 12 volt DC, whichever.
So we're using it right now. We brought a bunch of protein, a lot of meats down from the from Charleston, and it is frozen hard as a rock in this Dometic down here under the table. So we love that thing. The next thing underneath that is our fish cleaning station, and it's really nice. It will bend or folds up, so it's pretty much out of the way. But we keep that on the stern whenever we caught, I don't know, 5 or 6 mahi on the way down here, and we filleted all of them right there. And it was very nice, convenient. Instead of having to bring the fish inside and get everything messy inside, you just keep everything there on the back, which is great. The next one is one of my favorites, and that's my arrow garden. I love this thing so much. We like to cook, and of course we're chartering and doing food for guests as well. And so there's nothing like fresh herbs. Well, sometimes that's hard to come by. And so this little arrow garden, I'm telling you, it is the coolest thing. You put little seeds in it, little pods, and we're growing cilantro and dill and rosemary. I mean, all kinds of stuff. We have really 3 of them. We have one that's dedicated for cherry tomatoes and one that's dedicated for lettuce as well. It is just,
it's all legal stuff if you're watching, Mom.
The next thing is our magma grill. And that's really kind of more.
It just connects to the propane. And we originally were going to get the Monterey size, which is the largest grill that Magma offers. But we ended up having to downsize that to I believe it's the Catalina is the next size down. And we did get the infrared plates on it that help it cook more evenly. And I think that makes a difference. And it's done a great job for us. So we're very pleased with that.
And then really probably our very number one top, very favorite gear is going to be the ice maker. I'm telling you, that thing is
a game changer.
It is the best thing ever. We love it. It is full all the time.
I've got to say, I take pleasure in the marina when I see all these other boats getting ice bags delivered, and we just go fill back up our drink. That's kind of nice.
It's very nice.
Hey guys, a quick question on appliances and gear.
Yeah.
You guys have a 110 volt boat, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give us just a little sense of what's on 12 volt, what's on 110 volt, just how the world is broken up?
Sure. Let me start with the fact that we converted after factory, and we'll talk about a few after factory things in a minute, but we changed all of our AGM batteries to lithium. We did 6 300 amp hour lithium batteries. So we have 1,800 hours of amp hours of lithium. We have 3 different solar areas, the arch off, over the dinghy davits, which is 4 375 watt solar panels, and then 2 different sections of 140. So there's 140, 280 times 2 on the port and starboard side on the flybridge. And so we've got just over 2,000 watts of solar. But along with that, we upgraded our inverters. So we have 2 3,000 watt 110 inverters. And we also have one 5,000 watt 220 inverter to invert everything. And so when we're not on shore power generator, my boat's trying to invert it. And so our water maker, our washing machine, and our water heaters are all on the 220 side. And then everything else is basically trying to invert. So our, normal stuff on the 12 volt system is the lighting, nav lights, anchor light, VHF, autopilot, navigation equipment, and then just the 12 volt DC plugs are mainly, but the majority of it, because we're so heavy on the 110 inverter, most of our stuff by default is going to be on the 110 side. So if that makes sense.
It does. So you guys have basically inverted the entire boat. And then
Yes.
All the larger appliances are on AC, either if that's being passed through from shore power or being inverted from the lithium side. And then everything else is 12 volts, navigation equipment, lighting, all that.
That's right. And we could even, we can actually run our AC off of the batteries, but you watch the battery indicator kind of, dive quickly, but we can do it for a little while.
Yeah.
Anyway.
One quick build here, similar theme. When you looked at the options when you ordered the 50, one of the great things I love about my boat, similar to yours probably, is like it's basically a blank canvas to kind of create whatever you want after it comes from the factory, right? Lots of room to work on stuff, lots of space. how did you decide what to do from the factory versus what to do with an upfitter?
That's a great question. The way I'd answer this is what I thought was going to happen and what happened.
Asked a lot of people.
We did.
Really.
We asked a lot of people. Randy and Lenny Smith on Happy Together were great help with this. They gave us a lot of insight because they were just a few months ahead of us, and were very helpful with sharing spreadsheets and just what they'd learned on things. And they'd even come back and say, hey, we changed our mind on this because of this, or what, you know. But we thought by saving certain things to do post factory, like with just catamarans, was going to save us a lot of money. And that wasn't the case. It typically cost the same amount of money, but we were able to get a newer product. For example, the lithium batteries from the factory, they would only allow us to do 200 amp hour lithium batteries. And so by waiting and doing it post factory, we were actually able to get the 300 amp hour lithium batteries. So we were able to get 1800 amp hours in 6 battery packs instead of, you know, going the other route. We'd had to have 9 batteries with, you know, 200 amp hour batteries. So in that case, we got more, you know, more battery power into a smaller space, you know, and that's one of the reasons there. That's just kind of one example of that. But we weren't really saving money as much as we were spending the same money, but able to get the newest, latest, and greatest. The solar panels were another one. We were originally expecting 300 watt or 350 watt, but by the time our boat came in to just catamarans, the LG had come out with the 375 watt panels, and just catamarans automatically assumed we'd want the bigger, better one, and which is awesome. So just on the back panels there in 4 panels, it gave us an extra 100 watts of solar. And so that was another benefit, you know, as doing it post factory instead of at the factory. So it wasn't as intentional as you might think. A lot of these kind of decisions ended up making themselves for us, if that makes sense.
I found it does. I found that my broker was really helpful too by looking at that sheet, and I'm talking to an upfitter. And there are certain things, like you said, where, you know, the technology is evolving. You're ordering, you know, creating that option sheet at a moment in time, and then fast forward 2 years, and technology changes, things change.
I will say one of the things I wish I'd have gotten at the factory, because it's been hard to duplicate as cheap as the factory did it, but was the stainless steel little attachments on the back, on the aft cockpit area for scuba tanks. I wish I'd have gotten that. I've not been able to find them for as reasonably priced as what the factory would do those, and wish I'd have gotten them. And if anybody has a source where I can get those, let me know. So it's really handy.
And I think similarly too, when you're looking at anything that involves, or that is easier to put in while the boat isn't fully complete, right? So the generator, the air conditioning systems, things like that, where it's, you know, from a labor standpoint, a lot easier to put that stuff in when the boat is
exactly. We did that exactly. Yeah,
cool.
Correct. Going on with gear here, the Sea Sucker system here is a system that has these little suction cup devices. And as you can see here, it has a little orange flag, and that tells you to pump the button to get better suction on it again. And this is the best way we found to attach the iPad to either the dinghy or to the helm station to have our extra navigation available when we want it. So the Turkish towels is another thing Elizabeth researched and discovered that is a really lightweight towel that dries quickly, and they're comfortable, and you know, it's just easy to wash.
Yeah, lightweight.
Very lightweight. The Cena headsets, the third option here, Elizabeth was very skeptical at first about these.
Yes.
But the more we use them, the more thankful we are for them, because as I'm getting older, I'm losing my hearing. I can't hear quite as well as I used to. And she's inevitably facing forward down at the anchor, facing the opposite way and trying to say, slow down. And I'm saying, what? And the escalation continues, and it's almost comical. But with the headsets, we can talk in a calm voice, and so easy. And it's great. I strongly recommend the headsets. It really comes in handy. Yep. The Fat Boy floating beanbag chairs are just, you can use these on the deck, or you can use these in the water, and they're great. They just kind of like big floating beanbags. You can lay in it just like a lounger in the water. So that's been nice. And another thing we've really gotten to use a lot is this is actually a picture of our daughter Caroline, who makes soft shackles, and the soft shackles are great. It basically replaces a metal shackle. Anywhere a metal shackle would go, you can use a soft shackle. And these are lighter. They're made out of Dyneema or Amsteel, and we use them all over the boat to attach certain things, or to repair things, or prevent things that we think are going to pull loose or break or whatever. And we use them all the time. So look up soft shackle. They're great, and it'd be very useful and helpful to learn how to make them yourself. Spares. The spares list, I've said, you know, it's the only ultimate spares, especially if you live with my motto of anything worth doing is worth overdoing, is the best spares kit would be to drag another Leopard 50 behind me, but that's not always practical. So you got to cover the basics, which is your engines. You know, we upgraded to the Yanmar 80 horsepower engines, and we like that a lot. And so we carry the oil filters, fuel filters, the secondary filters, the Raycor that we added after factory, the belts, and then the oil and impellers that you need, O-rings, just all the other things that go along with servicing and regularly, you know, maintaining the Yanmar. The Northern Lights generator, there's a, you know, normal list of parts there that your dealer can help you with. And we went with the Spectra Newport 1000 water maker, which generates about 40 gallons an hour. And we've been very happy with that. It works great. We just stocked up on a lot of the filters. And, you know, the cleaner the water, the longer your filters will last. So we are somewhat picky about where we'll run that water maker. We also have, you know, spare props for our outboard on the dinghy, and then we have a spare water pump, pressure pump for the boat, just because we want to make sure that we, you know, don't lose water pressure, especially on a charter. And then just other miscellaneous tools, bag stuff like your, you know, zincs and your corrosion spray and those kind of things. So this is by no means an exhaustive list, but it's a start with a lot of the things that we feel like we have to have on board. And I've got a lot of tools, you know, from maintaining rental property. And, you know, it's just a personal thing of how much is too much and how many things can we outsource while here on the island. And in a lot of cases, we found you can get it. It's just, you got to order it and then wait on it. So funny enough, we had a little bitty 50-cent part break on our generator, that little diode. It's literally 51 cents. And I needed them quick to get air. And I ended up paying over $200 to have them freighted in overnight. And it didn't end up being overnight. It ended up being over 2 nights. And so it was kind of a waste. But anyway, just an example of boat life. Routine maintenance, just keeping up with cleaning the stainless is always a job, and little rust spots. We found a lot of good products that you can get, like West Marines offers Starbright products, which work really well. We found lubricating different things, like our autopilot was squeaking some on the passage over, and it was really easy just to lubricate the blocks where the steering goes through. Just all those kind of things you have to pay attention to and maintain on a regular basis. There literally is always something to do, but that's just boat life. You know, you get used to it, and you just, I mean, I don't know, there's always something to do. I've told Elizabeth I haven't felt caught up yet, and it's all my own doing. It's just washing the boat, cleaning things, putting stuff away, staying organized, and remembering where I put everything. So the more organized you are, the better you'll do, for sure. Okay, aftermarket stuff. I'm going to let Elizabeth cover her top 3 interior things.
Well, the first thing, my personal favorite, is the nav station remodel. So in all the times that we've been on bear boats, we've never used the nav station ever, other than to load up our camera gear with and phones and things like that. So we saw, I think Just Cats had remodeled one already with maybe a
Wine cooler.
Wine cooler in it. And so it kind of got me thinking, why don't we, that was I think a 45 foot. We've got a 50 foot. We probably have a little bit more room. Let's see if we can fit another fridge and freezer there. And by golly, they made it work. And it is fabulous. We have got so much room now on top. It's just this huge, like, serving station or bar, place to put bar equipment. If we needed to roll out charts or whatever, we can push all that aside and roll that out and have a nice, you know, chest high table that we can put things out on. It's great. We absolutely love it. Second best, in my opinion, is our down in the master stateroom. We had Just Cats add a third drawer over on the bureau, just and then
opposite the companionway. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And then over on the vanity side, we don't use a vanity. I never have, and so we decided we would have them just fill all that in and make those all.
So where
drawers.
the knee space is normally, we've added drawers to that. So
yes, it's yeah. It's great. And then we've got kind of a tie between, we couldn't really decide. We've added plastique everywhere that we could add plastique. We've added plastique, which is like faux teak everywhere. And we even put it down in the heads, which has been really, really nice.
Comfortable.
And then our beloved ice maker, the
Yep.
MVP of the boat. And then Kevin made me a table. It's kind of a sentimental thing for us. I didn't want a fiberglass white table. I wanted it to kind of feel cozy and homey. And so we found some reclaimed wood from an old building in downtown where Fort Smith, where we're from. And he made me a beautiful table. So that's really probably my favorite.
Yeah. It adds a lot of charm to the boat.
It is.
Top 3 exterior things for me would be the solar, the lithium batteries, and the enclosure. We originally were just going to do the helm enclosure, but we talked about enclosing the whole aft cockpit. And after doing these passages and having blowing rain on certain occasions, we are so glad we went ahead and did that. Creative Canvas out of Fort Lauderdale, who did that for us, and they did a good job. We'd use them again.
A couple quick questions. Hop onto that slide. We'll do rapid fire here because it's all related to some equipment questions. So what props did you have on the boat, or do you have on the boat, and did you change from what came from the factory?
Yes, we just took the boat with the factory props, and now those are our backups or spares, and we upgraded to the max prop, the feathering prop 4-blade, and they've been great. I was always read and had heard about folding and feathering, that they take a while to switch and reverse and all this. We've had 0 problems. It responds well, but it's the max prop feathering 4-bladed prop that we have on now, and have been very happy with it. Very happy.
Awesome. Why did you upgrade to the 80 horsepower Yanmars?
Well, more than anything, I think a lot of boats that come out of factory are just right at what they need to have for normal conditions. And I wanted to have plenty if I needed it. And sure enough, coming in and out of inlets in Florida, it's nice to have that extra boost if you need it, And so we've been really thrilled with that. And
well, also if you end up losing an engine.
Yeah, if you lose an engine, you can maintain a little bit better speed there. And so we've been happy with the upgrade. We'll burn a little bit more fuel, but we have a little bit more oomph when we need it. Yep. And so yeah, we're not disappointed with that decision. So
at all.
Great. And then one more here. Do you guys have the square top mainsail or the standard?
We do have the square top main with the carver hook.
And how's that worked out?
It's good. I'll tell you honestly, the last 10 feet or so of raising that, the main halyard sounds like I'm skinning a live cat. But I had the rigging guys in Fort Lauderdale, Nance and Underwood, look at it, and they said, nope, it's fine. And I was like, all right, but we've been happy with that. I will say I think the Lumar Traveler car, a few Leopard owners have had issues with that. I think it's just a tad undersized. And so I've just gotten a replacement in as ours parted on our crossing. And I'm probably going to have some long-term plans for upgrading that. But again, it depends on how hard you are on the equipment as well. The boat itself is a tank. I mean, this hull I am very impressed with and happy with. We've been in lots of high wind situations, and even my daughter who crossed the Atlantic with us was kind of like, well, that's isn't a big deal at all, kind of thing. And so the boat is a tank. There are just a few things on the rigging side I would tend to upgrade just because my sailing ambitions are pretty aggressive, I guess, maybe compared to most, and not in how I want to sail it as much as how far I want to go and offshore and all that. So I want to go a little overboard just for longevity. And so I will probably upgrade my Traveler car and Traveler track, most likely.
Cool. And then let's do, because I know we're running up against the top of the hour. Love to do this slide and then go to your secret anchorage, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end.
So you want to cover this one?
Sure. The only thing, we had a hard time coming up with what we would do different at this point. Really, we want to add more blue lights. We've got, I guess, just one set of blue lights on each side.
On the inside of the holes.
And we will sit on the sugar scoops at night and turn those things on and just watch fish all night. It's just the best. We have a great time with it. It's also great if you're off at a restaurant and coming back in. It's easy to identify your boat with those blue lights. We love them, and I think we're going to add more.
Okay.
And favorite anchorages. This right here, this picture is, it's in the Bahamas. It is the Exuma Land and Sea Park. It is just one of our most favorite places. It's super special. It's very cool. And the other one, another favorite is Colabrita in Puerto Rico. And it's just a deserted little island with just some really neat water features and hikes and old lighthouse. And it's just super special place.
Okay. And if we had one piece of advice, we'd say do it now. I mean, honestly, even if it meant getting a smaller boat or not exactly the one you want, you know, I would say do it sooner than later. But I would also say put some money back, because boat bucks are expensive. Everything on a boat costs 3 times more than it would otherwise. So we, you know, the lifestyle is very hard to beat, but it is still work. So anyway, with that, Chris, we're happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
You bet. And just in case we run out, I just want to run out of time. There's an email address for Katie. So any questions that we don't get to, please feel free to send them. And then also your social media handles here and website. So if people want to connect with you, I know you guys have been gracious enough to extend that invitation to folks on the call.
Yeah, a lot of the pictures of the things we've modified or changed are on the website. So I would start at whatthekingsdidnext.com, and you can always email us through that as well if you have any more direct questions. But anyway, we'll be happy to answer anything anybody may have.
Yeah, you bet. So lots of great discussion today around the community and things that you guys have done to your 50. Probably top of mind for a lot of people on this call is, how does the boat actually sail? So how's the experience been from a performance standpoint on the 50?
It's been good, surprisingly. I kid around with Elizabeth all the time saying, I wish I would have marked the water line when we started loading stuff up on the boat, because we literally took a Suburban with a pull behind U-Haul trailer and loaded the boat up. And then my next trip back home and back, we rented a cargo van full and loaded it up with stuff on the boat. And so there's no telling how much the water level moved up as the boat went down. But surprisingly, it still sells really well. We've been going as fast as 11 and 12 knots while in the Gulf Stream, heading north, obviously. But in most cases on this last passage, you know, we'll see regularly 7.5 knots fairly easily. And if we're really trimmed well, 8 knots is pretty common. When I get the code 0 out in combination with the mainsail, love the code 0. The one trick I would tell you we learned on that is to furl that thing up without having to drop it from the head down. We ended up, you know, having to turn with the wind or downwind as fast as possible to eliminate all your apparent wind and then roll it up. It makes it a lot easier, trust me. But code 0 has become one of our favorite sails, because that thing, I mean, we can usually, in normal conditions with the main and the Genoa, we can run right at half of the wind speed. So if we're seeing 20 knots, we can get 9.5. But with the code 0, you know, you don't want to sail it in that heavy a wind, but we're a lot better than half the wind speed with the code 0. I mean, what did we see? We saw like 12 knots and we were getting like 8 with the code 0. So very impressed with the code 0.
I've also, just a trick too, you guys have probably already done, is backwinded it with the Genoa.
Like wing on wing.
Yep, that's it. Or to cover it, to furl it in if the wind.
Oh yeah.
We've heard.
Yeah.
Cool. A couple of questions here on anchor. So what's the rode and anchor type or anchor that you guys have on the boat right now?
Well, we stayed with the factory chain and upgraded it. We went with the Rockna, I guess it's the 88 kilogram, I think. Is that right? It's like 110 pounds, somewhere in there. But and we've been very happy with that. We actually put the Mantis swivel with the Rockna anchor, and we've been pleased with that.
Cool. Let's try to pack in 2 more here. So when you're looking at buying a boat, right, you can get as big as you can afford, or you can try to find the sweet spot and say, hey, this is actually what we need. What counsel would you give to someone who's trying to figure out, should I do a 40, a 45, a 50?
I would say it's a little different. In my typical advice would tend to lean itself towards housing, where it's always best to buy the biggest house you can afford, because it's like a forced savings account. A boat is not a savings account. You're always going to have additional high expenses. And for example, just a monthly marina fee for us on the cheap side is $1,000 a month. On the high side, down here in the USVI, there's places that are $5,500 a month for for marina space. So that's not an option for us. We're going to stay on a mooring ball or on an anchor or other options, but there is a lot more unexpected expenses with a boat than there is a house. So I would say leave a little margin for error there, or for upgrades, or one accidental jibe the wrong way and you rip a sail that you're going to have to replace, and you're talking about thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I would say it also kind of has to do with how handy you are, right?
Yeah.
And how much you can actually do
That's
yourself.
right. That's a good point. If you're somebody who can fix things yourself and dig it out and redo it, and you know how to solder, and you know how to, do all these types of skills, you'll be way better off and better served than having to hire somebody for every job you have to do on the boat. And you're going to pay a lot more premium
and you get
to do
know
that.
your boat a lot better as well.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, sometimes I wish things on the boat would break quicker so I could learn the systems better. But new boats and used boats alike all will have their issues and break. You just need to learn to take care of the boat and not push it too much. Don't overdo it. But we're very pleased with our purchase. I can't think of another boat I would rather have at this point.
Awesome. Quick, easy last question here. And there's some questions that we didn't have a chance to get to. So again, shoot Katie a note or go to the King's website here. Some folks just asking for pictures of the mods that you've done. So great to hear that you're open to sharing those. But final question here, what kind of dinghy do you guys have, and what's been the experience?
We went with the Highfield, the 380 Classic. It's the Highfield 380 CL. And we did add a chaps to that in a Bimini cover and the VCT console, and we've been very happy with it. It is and it's 25 horsepower Yamaha outboard on it, and I would tell you it's not fast enough to really like pull a wakeboard, or with just me driving and one of my kids in the dinghy, we could pull one of the kids on the tube, but not really fast enough to just whip them off of it. So in the future, I might look to go to about a 40 horsepower outboard, and which would force me to go to a little bit bigger dinghy, I believe. But other than that issue, we're very happy with it. It's done well, and we're pleased with it. It's performed very good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We looked at console, the VCT.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Well,
Nice.
Kevin and Elizabeth, I want to thank you guys so much for spending part of your day with us from the Virgin Islands there. And for folks on the call, if we didn't have a chance to get to your question, please shoot Katie a note. And also, please take a moment to give us your feedback on the next screen. Thanks, everyone.